Happy Thursday. Happy Thursday. What is going on, everybody? It's your boy, Aaron B. And I got my co host, Shane Carter, in the building. How's it going, Shane?
It's going real good. We got college football week one, official week one this
Yeah.
weekend. NFL right around the corner, and we're gonna get into it a little bit. We're also gonna talk some college football. It'll be fun to actually expand, not just talk about the Cowboys on the first time on the show, but obviously we gotta start off with America's team, don't we?
Yeah, yes, sir. Before we get into it, uh, this episode is powered by SeatGeek. Life's event. We got tickets, football is here, concerts, and more. Use that promo code tacos and touchdowns for $20 off your first purchase. So, getting into some Cowboy talk because it's actually been some. We actually got some good news, but we're gonna probably. You want to get into the 53-man roster first?
Well, since you already threw that out there, let's go ahead and start with that.
All right, let's get into that 53-man roster. I got it up on the board already. So,
Mm-hmm.
so we were talking about the 53-man roster last week. So, and I was looking back on it. We actually did a pretty decent job. We missed out on a couple of guys. We when we did the show, Linval
Mm-hmm.
Joseph got signed 2 days after the show. So
Yeah, that took away from the Awesome Richards pick, or
yeah,
not the Justin Rogers. Justin Rogers, sorry.
oh no, you're good. So,
Um,
is there any?
I
My bad.
I would go ahead. You go ahead.
Oh no, I was saying, is there any guys that you're surprised that made the roster, like on the
Well,
offense first?
offensive side, the only one that is a surprise, just because I don't think they deserved it, was Brevin Span 4, but that was pretty obvious he's going to make the team because they gave him so much guarantee money to sign as an undrafted free agent. And Jerry and Co. don't really ship that kind of money out for undrafted free agents with the intention of at least getting them a shot at the roster. I thought that the three tight ends up above, I thought were the most likely candidates with Ferguson, who's the obvious number one. I think John Stevens is actually this team's best second tight end. Luke Schoonmaker, by all accounts, looks better, but we'll see because last year he was not. I don't want to say ineffective, but he wasn't as helpful as we needed a second round pick to be. So Brevin Span 4 he came in. His bread and butter was being a really effective run blocker, but he didn't always seem like the most effective blocker out on the edges, and he missed some catches when in games. Obviously, in practices, I guess are gonna dictate a lot more of these moves than others. But on the opposite side, Brevin Span 4 was probably the one that stood out to me the most.
Yeah, that's the only one that could really stand out to me. We already kind of talked about. We were saying, well, Let's Go is probably most likely going to make the team, even if you're not a big fan of him or not. But you need offensive tackle depth. But Brevin Span 4 was like the popular guy coming in
Mm-hmm.
out of the UFA guys. I get it. You did spend a lot of money on him.
Yep.
Maybe he pans out when the season comes. But there's gonna be some time where we probably won't even see him on there because of how many players you need active.
And when it came to people talking about the difference between Josh Ball and Matt Willetsko, Josh Ball, to his credit, and I've said it before, I can't really talk about the guy with a straight face because of his past transgressions.
Yeah.
He did better this year in the preseason, but the difference between him and Matt Willetsko was Matt Willetsko is a right tackle, and right now this team had no option at right tackle. Once you get past the starters, your backups are Awesome Richards, who did really well being a left side player. He's going to play both left tackle and left guard, it sounds like. Brock Hoffman, a reliable backup center. TJ Bass, who's going to play a swing guard, who actually might be your guy in waiting behind Zach Martin if Zach Martin were in fact to retire. And Josh Ball is a better guard than he was tackle, but this team didn't need an extra guard. They needed a tackle. And Matt Willetsko, if you watch the Raider game especially, I would say he was serviceable. He's not going to give you the upside that Terrence Steele theoretically gives you, but he's a better option for that backup tackle spot, which they didn't have than Josh Ball would. So they made the right call.
Yeah, absolutely. When it comes to our guard side, we're actually pretty set. So it just was the numbers game about Josh Ball. He's on the practice squad just in case if there be an injury. At least you got Josh Ball as a serviceable backup guard and stuff. But when it comes to the defense, were you surprised about the Carl Lawson release because they barely had him in the building for a while, or is it kind of like I understand?
When they signed him, it felt like he was a lock to make the roster. Then you saw him actually play, and you could see there's definitely some rust that needs to get knocked off. He didn't have that same sort of pass rush ability that he displayed during his time in Cincinnati and with the Jets. And truth be told, I was fine with him bringing the practice squad. I was less thrilled about him being on the roster if that was what his output was. Tyrus Wheat making the roster surprised me a little. I know he's primarily gonna be a special teams guy along with Texas A&M's Buddy Johnson.
Yeah.
Those are kind of guys who've made a really good push. Those guys are gonna be primarily special teams players. Um, but surprise would be the wrong word when it comes to those two. It was really more along the lines of if they were going to keep somebody else for special teams purposes, I would have rather it been this guy. From for example, the guy that I really wanted was Julius Wood, who's now with C. That's in the past. But Tyrus Wheat, Buddy Johnson they might be game day inactive. They might not be guys that you even see play a whole lot. You might even see someone get called up from the practice squad to play special teams. Someone like which we'll get a little bit is like Darius Harris, who's like a noted special teams ace.
Yeah.
He might be one of those guys that they do that with, but no one on the defense really surprised me as much people might think. Like them keeping who they did made sense for what they were gonna do.
Yeah, it's one of those years like, okay, you can understand why they picked these guys, and there's the numbers game, and Tyrus Wheat has had a solid off season and stuff. Like he's been on the team for about 2 years now. I know he's been mainly on practice.
Yeah, this is his second season.
Yeah, and he's a good addition. They love the UDFA guys, and he's been productive in that situation. And Buddy Johnson had a solid preseason on special teams, so they're not guys that like, oh, okay, why are they on the team? But they showed out. Like on the secondary, I'm liking what we have. Can't wait until we get Bland back. But the one I'm excited to see this season, because I know that he's going to get some playing time now due to the fact that Bland is Kalen Carson. Are you excited about seeing some play from Kalen Carson this year?
Well, I was excited for him as soon as they drafted him. I thought he should have been a third, maybe fourth round pick, and they gave him in the fifth round for a guy who I think has starter potential. Not even potential; he's going to be a starter. But obviously, you would have liked him to have earned that job in a different kind of way. Now it's kind of thrust upon him due to injury. But I'm glad they did with the defensive back depth because it looks like they've already designated Israel McQuamu as a cornerback. Andrew Booth, I think, is going to be down on the totem pole when it comes to the cornerback list. I think he's your special teams guy among those guys. I think Israel McQuamu might actually get some cornerback snaps, which would be encouraging to see because he's been doing really well when given the opportunity at cornerback. But Kalen Carson, who what I think will be big, especially against the run, that was one of his best attributes, is playing the run at Wake Forest. I think that's going to be what's really going to help him make an impact early on. Because as a rookie, he's going to struggle. But if he's going to have any sort of impact anywhere, it's going to be as a run defender out on the edges.
Yeah. And that's one of the bread and butters when it comes to Mike Zimmer's defense. If you can play in that run, you got an opportunity to be on this team. And that's what he does is a run support. And he's not afraid to tackle. He's not one of those corner that's second guessing. He's one of those guys that willing to make those surefire tackles. But we got some good news. A couple of days ago, we have Cee Dee Lamb coming back to the Cowboys, re-signing for, let me get these numbers right, for a 4-year extension for $136 million per Tom Paracero, and he's getting a $100 million guarantee, and he has a wide receiver record of the $38 million signing bonus. What's your thoughts on this contract for Cee Dee?
Should have signed him earlier.
Oh yeah,
it's nickel and dime and these players and the Cowboys who claim to be these sort of, I don't want to say geniuses, but Cowboys promise which claims to know what they're doing, when literally everyone around the league sees where the market is at with certain positions, and when they have a marquee elite name up for an extension, to avoid having to compete with where the price is going to be, they want to get out ahead and just pay the price as it is now. If the Cowboys had done the same thing with Dak Prescott, it wouldn't have cost them almost $60 million. Again, like that's wherever negotiations are was notwithstanding. But there was even that report put out by the Athletic that there were a number of front offices asked around about like what do you think about the Cowboys doing, how they were doing with the Cee Dee Lamb contract disputes. And to summarize it, the majority of the front offices were questioning what they were doing because you hear reports come out that Jerry Jones and company, I should say Jerry Jones and company, are very much were very much firm on this price, this, that, and the other. And there's also reports that the dispute was over the structure. There's the disputes over what the key was going to be. And in the end, it doesn't matter because Jerry and Steven and company are going to say, like, we got the deal done. We wanted to get done. Now we go play football. But the reality is they lose these negotiations. And there's no point in them doing these over-the-top negotiations because if they don't get it done, also sign them. Cowboys players have had a lot more power in recent years than they have in the past. And when they don't sign these guys, they can go off somewhere else and play. Now, to be fair, sometimes they don't always fare outside of Dallas. Randy Gregory is one of those guys. But I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like the Jones family did him any favors. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like the front office did its job. They made the price go up when it didn't need to go up that much. We saw receivers like Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Tyreek Hill's a reworked contract. We saw Jalen Waddle get paid. We saw all these guys get paid. We were so close to seeing Brandon Ayuk or Jamar Chase potentially getting paid before Cee Dee Lamb, and all that was going to do was cost them more money. So whenever the Cowboys talk about cap space, I roll my eyes because they put themselves in that situation, and I am happy for Cee Dee Lamb. I believe he's earned his money. I am never going to tell someone, hey, I'm never going to put my hand in someone's pockets. It's a philosophy of mine. But what I am going to do is question your business decisions when you can't handle business, and that's what all I'm going to do is leave it at that.
Yeah, because they always wait until the last minute where they could have. They always talk about the cap, like you said, but you could have saved a lot more, and then you could have had more cap space where you could have made more moves. But they don't do that. They wait until when the season is about to start. Okay,
we got breaking news. We got breaking news. As a matter of fact, speaking on that,
really?
according to Mike Garafolo of NFL Network, the 49ers are not going to trade Brandon Ayuk. The two sides have agreed to a 4-year extension worth $120 million with $76 million in guaranteed money. So the Cowboys missed out on the price going up by just a couple of days.
Dang.
That averages to $30 million a year, but even still, what all it would do was lower the asking price from where it would have been. That's for perspective.
Yeah, I'm just glad that saga's over with now. When it comes to the Ayuk thing, it just got tiring. And we're not even 49er fans, but it's just like got tired of hearing about it. I'm just glad it got done.
I wonder if that means they move Debo at some point.
I think that could be a possibility of Debo moving on from Debo.
Because right now they can afford both those players, but when Brock Purdy is eligible for an extension,
yeah, because this is last year on his rookie deal, right?
No, this is his second. This is his third year on his rookie deal. Since he's a 7th-round pick, he doesn't have a 5th-year option. But at the end of this year, he will be eligible for an extension. So if they wanted to pay him to avoid the market going up where it already is, them being a smart front office would pay him ahead of time instead of being like the Cowboys and waiting on Dak and letting his number go up and higher and higher and higher and see all his quarterbacks get their extensions. But smart front offices don't do that sort of thing.
Yeah, they'd be smart to sign him because from what he's done from a 7th-round pick from the very bottom, he's done a lot for when it comes to that. So they definitely got to pay him well. But let me make sure that we're gonna get before we get into college football. We got to shout out to our second W Energy. If you need that energy boost when you don't want the jitters, the crash, and that sugar and the artificial additives, W Energy drink is perfect for you. It's comes from whole coffee Arabic fruit packed with vitamins, aminos, and natural caffeine to support good blood flow, brain function, and muscle recovery. Use that promo code touchdowns to save 10% off on that 30 servings of this clean, effective energy. W Energy, appreciate y'all. Let's get into college football. This is kind of our first segment talking into college football. We got our teams going up. Let's talk about UT versus Colorado State.
Okay.
So I'm excited about this. This is excited about college football, but UT is 32.5 favorites against Colorado State Rams. And I'm going to talk about the players to watch on Colorado State. Is Torrey Horton is a guy that you're going to be looking at, who possibly be a first round is next year's draft. And you got quarterback Braden Fowler. Uh, I'm a Nick Nicholas C or something like that, and guys like Jack Howell and Henry Blackburn. There's two safeties that are two playmaking, hard hitting safeties. Guys, you got to look out for. But the thing is, I'm going to see what this duo of Horton and Fowler like when it comes to them. Like I want to see what this secondary when it comes to the Longhorns that play against them. The only thing I see the Longhorns winning this game overall, but all they got to it's all they got to do is avoid minimal mistakes, penalties, and don't be afraid to test these CSU corners.
Mm-hmm.
You got the receivers that have the speed and they can get separation, and they're very good route runners. And one guy I think that's kind of on the walk. I see having a great game is Gunnar Helm, our tight end. I see him showing out against his Colorado. This is the first team that recruited him out of high school. I see him showing out against them, being that safety blanket for UT. And that's the solid, stout defensive unit we have on this team. I think they can generate and create pressure against this Colorado team. And all they got to do is avoid the minimal mistakes and don't be afraid to use this depth you have and utilize. And I think I have this game going to 35-17.
Well, on the radio, we were talking earlier this week about how Coach Sark's approach to the running back room was after the loss of C.J. Baxter, and how like pretty much guys like Jadon Blue and other guys are gonna have to step up. And it sounds like what they're gonna do is use, for lack of a better term, Colorado State as like sort of a tune-up to see what the backfield is actually gonna look like, who deserves the majority of their snaps. And all credit to Jay Norvell, the Colorado State head coach, because he seems like he has the program going in the right direction. They have the right quality players, and at the very least, they can compete. We saw how they competed last year with the games, most notably the Colorado game. They had that game won if it weren't for a end of game defensive kerfuffle, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
But I'm interested to see just for the Longhorns' perspective, because a lot of people have them as one of the favorites, not the favorite, but one of the favorites in the SEC to, if not win the conference, at least compete for one of those top 12 spots in the college football playoff. They were there last year, and they played one of the best games of the season against Washington. And now this year, Quinn Ewers goes into presumably his final year at Texas with a whole new receiving corps, led by Isaiah Bond, who's from Bama.
Yeah.
Who I would presume would be probably the number one target, or at least like it guesstimates to be, because I think they have 3 new starters and they're all transfer guys. And I have faith that Texas can get it done against Colorado State, and primarily because Texas has one of the better defenses, not only SEC but in the country of returning guys. The offense though is going to have some hiccups just because these guys are still getting used to each other. Quinn Ewers, for all the criticism of the past, showed a lot of progress throughout the season as it went along. There were some early struggles, but he progressed really well down the season, and he's become one of the better passers this year. A lot of people have him as a potential Heisman candidate, potential first-round draft pick, and him getting a rejuvenated receiving cast definitely helps. But it also comes with some there's a learning curve with guys that you're used to. So I'm interested to see like how the Longhorns use their running backs to find their true number one guy. Jadon Blue would probably be the presumed number one option. We'll see. And I don't have this game close either. With all respect to Colorado State, I don't have this game close either. But I think at the very least it's a 30-point win for the Longhorns.
Yeah, they're gonna get a couple touchdowns, but I don't think it's gonna be down to the wire. Like how we're gonna talk in a little bit about our game of the week. But
yeah.
Let's get into your Texas Tech Raiders versus Abilene Christian.
Mm-hmm.
So, what's your thoughts on this game? I know it's
Abilene Christian has a bunch of former Red Raiders on their staff, including their head coach, and so there's a lot of familiar faces on that side. The excitement around Tech is going to be the new look offensive line. Caleb Rogers, who is their presumed top considered NFL draft pick, moves from guard to tackle, and then they added a couple of their left tackle and left guard from Toledo and Middle Tennessee, and I can't remember the names off the top of my head, unfortunately. And a lot of the excitement comes from Josh Kelly, the transfer receiver from Washington State, and the 5-star freshman wide receiver Micah Hudson, who is going to feature some sort of role in this offense. Now, on the depth chart when they released earlier this year, he was listed as the second slot and one of the punt return options. And so I think he's definitely gonna have a role in this offense. But the health of Baron Morton and keeping him protected was one thing that really hurt them last year. Some of those games they should have won. Colorado was one of those games I'm thinking about. Wyoming's another one, and they've been chasing 9+ wins since Mike Leach left, and they haven't been there since then. And so the health of the quarterback is a big factor in this. But all eyes are primarily going to be on Taj Brooks, who needs 1,084 yards to break the all-time Texas Tech career rushing yards mark. And I think he's probably going to get that somewhere around Game 7, Game 8, depending. But the hope is that they don't need to use him so much like they did last year because of the inconsistency at quarterback, obviously for health reasons, that he doesn't need to rush for almost 2,000 yards on the ground, that he can take a little bit less off, and that this is one of the better skill positions that they've had since 2017 at the very least. And I'm also really excited for this Texas Tech secondary featured by C.J. Baskerville and Braylon Lux. And I think that's going to be probably their strength on defense is that just because we don't know yet who their premier pass rusher is. There's no Tyree Wilson. There's no Miles Cole. There's no guy on the edge as of yet. They should win this game pretty easily. I'm just put that out there. But this game is really more of a look and see what we got type game for Tech fans.
So a lot of trying to figure out when it comes to like the younger guys on the team,
yep,
and some of the transfer guys. So this that type of game.
Yeah, essentially the same way with it is with the Longhorns playing Colorado State. Granted, Colorado State is a better opponent, but it is the same sort of concept.
Before we get into our game of the week, what do you see at Texas Tech overall this year, like in the Big 12?
It's funny you said because I yesterday with Justin Apodaca, Red Raider Sports, and we did a game-by-game projection of where we thought they would go. Obviously, projecting health, projecting everything falls in line, right? And we determined that if everything goes as it should, 9-3 is where this team would likely be headed because they're probably going to lose one game they shouldn't. I don't see them beating Arizona or Oklahoma State, and I think Texas Tech, for what it's worth, has fared really well in the bowl games. They have a really, really good record in bowl games. So I think if they were able to get 9 wins in the regular season and maybe a 10th for a bowl game, that not only is the best season they've had since Mike Leach, that's a season that really tells you Joe McGuire has this program in the right direction, which they've been looking for over a decade.
Yeah, I'm not mad at that record because I could see the Texas Tech.
Well, y'all in the SEC now, so you have no reason to hate. Y'all can focus your energy on A&M again.
Yeah, and the Aggies. Speaking of,
yeah, you like that little pivot?
Yeah, speaking of the Aggies, Tacos and Touchdown game of the week is A&M versus Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm.
Two teams I'm not the highest fans on, but it's all good. It's still going to be a great game.
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what. Even though A&M losing is something you want as a Longhorns fan, I think you actually want Notre Dame to lose this game because the reason they've been able to get into college football playoffs and BCS games is because they're independent and they have a blue blood status attached to them. So the more losses they suffer, the better it is for teams like Texas, teams like Michigan, teams like LSU, whoever. Like you want to keep them as far away from the top 12 as possible because blue bloods and independents, they ain't got to worry about conference record. So they just get consideration from the outside working in. So I know you don't want to, but I think you should root for A&M. Now, it's interesting because Mike Elko, the new A&M head coach, coached the current Notre Dame quarterback, Riley Leonard, at Duke. Both of them were there last year. And a player I want you to watch out for on this Notre Dame offense, and this I think will be Riley Leonard's best friend, is what's his name? I wrote his name down. One sec. His name is Mitchell Evans, the tight end. He might actually be one of the better tight ends in this year's class. I think he's going to be Riley Leonard's best friend. I think the mobility of Leonard and what they can do with that backfield can open up the offense a little bit more. But even if you're a Longhorn fan, you want A&M to lose. You need A&M. You need Connor Wingen to take down the Fighting Irish, and it's at home too. So Kyle Field has one of the best home field advantages in the country, maybe the best. And I think I see the loss of their running back. Hang on, I wrote that down too. Hang on. The loss of their running back
on the Aggies.
Yeah. Reuben Owens. The loss of Reuben Owens. Sorry, the loss of Reuben Owens obviously hurts their backfield because he was to be considered one of the more featured back the change of guys last year. But I still think Le'Veon Moss is probably going to be a solid guy for them in the backfield. He's going to take a lot of pressure off that offense. But you need to be able to contain Riley Leonard because he can gut you with his legs. And in that offense that Notre Dame has been able to adapt quarterbacks into, he could probably develop his arm a little bit. So that's something you have to watch out for.
Well, you actually been reading my notes a little bit when it comes. I do actually want A&M to actually win this game, and because
you need them to. You need them to win this game.
Yeah, that's the main thing. I was putting all my bias rivalry to the side just for the sake of them winning this game. Another thing about, like you brought up the point, Mike Elko knows Riley Leonard as a quarterback. He had him under there. And when it comes to the A&M, one thing about Mike Elko, he's a defensive guy. He's going to try to make sure this defense unit is prepared for Notre Dame. And when it comes to this, I think this will be another upset game because last week we had Florida State versus
Georgia Tech.
Georgia Tech. This is gonna be an upset game, but it's gonna be close to the down to the wire type of game.
So you're taking A&M at home?
Yeah, I'm taking A&M at home, of course.
I am too. And it has nothing to do with like preferences or anything like that. It's just along the lines of like, even though I think Notre Dame has probably would argue more firepower and offense, I think A&M has a much more reliable defense, and I think. To compete. And I really think, no offense to Notre Dame fans, I think they're kind of overrated a little bit. I don't think 7 is properly where they should be. But I think this game will also be telling for Connor Wingen, who a lot of people think could be a first-round drafted quarterback as well. So this is a statement game for him too. But I have A&M close.
Yeah, it's not going to be a blowout game, and I think it's just like that. This defense on the A&M is is more talented when it comes to the Notre Dame. They both have good defense, but I think it's just this A&M defense is going to be prepared. Elko and that defensive unit is going to be lights out. But what is your score for this game?
I'll say 34-27.
34-27.
Even though I think both teams have defensive players, I think they're gonna. I see some points being scored in this one enough. 34-27 feels appropriate.
Okay, I got this game 24-17.
Oh, so you have lower score. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Is there, before I let you go, bro? Is there any other game that you got your eye on? Anything?
I mean, where I'll be working this Saturday. So like, but that's not neither here nor there. Once we get more, like, ask me again, like after 3 games into the college football season, once we start conference play, then we'll talk about like, okay, who we think actually like might be threats in different conferences. We'll get to that point, but for now, let's stick with these.
Okay, I got you. So this has been Tacos and Touchdowns. Y'all have a good weekend. College football is here. Next week we got the NFL, so it's gonna be a busy season, but it's gonna be a fun season talking about college football and as well as the Dallas Cowboys, a little bit about the other NFL teams as well. But y'all have a good weekend. Peace. Cut
the mic.